June 26, 1918. Saint-Nazaire, France. The gangplanks slam against the dock with a hollow thunder that echoes across the harbor. Steam rises from a USS Henderson as the first wave of American soldiers steps onto French soil, and what strikes the exhausted dock workers first isn't the numbers, though there are thousands. It's the shine. Private First Class James Holloway, 1st Infantry Division, descends with his Springfield M1903 slung tight across his shoulders, his leather boots still dark with fresh polish. Behind him, Corporal Michael O'Brien adjusts the straps of his pack, canvas so new it still smells of the factory floor in Massachusetts. Their wool uniforms are regulation issue, olive drab, unwrinkled, free of the mud and blood that have become the standard dress code on the Western Front. "Look at him," mutters a French stevedore to his companion, gesturing at the endless column of doughboys flooding the port. They look like they're heading to a parade, not a war. He isn't wrong. For years into the most devastating conflict the world has ever seen, these Americans arrive like men from another planet. Their faces are full, not hollow. Their eyes bright, not haunted. They laugh. They smoke fresh cigarettes from crisp packs. They carry chocolate bars in their pockets and chew gum while they march, luxuries the Allied soldiers haven't tasted in months, sometimes years. Lieutenant Colonel Theodore Roosevelt, Jr., son of the former president, watches his men disembark with quiet pride. He knows what they represent. Not just fresh troops, but a declaration. America has entered the war not with desperation, but with abundance, with organizational might that has turned the entire Atlantic Ocean into a supply line. The Germans, dug into their trenches 200 miles northeast, don't know it yet. But they're about to face an enemy unlike any they've encountered, an enemy that brings industrial supremacy to the battlefield itself. The contrast becomes even more stark as the supply convoys begin rolling inland. Sergeant Hans Müller of the 5th Bavarian Reserve Division has been in the trenches near Stature for 11 months. He's 24 years old, but looks 40. His boots are wrapped in newspaper and wire where the soles have disintegrated. His last real meal, potatoes and a sliver of horse meat, was 3 days ago. The turnip soup they call KK, Kriegskutch, or War Kitchen has become their staple, thin enough to see through. When his patrol spots the American column on June 3rd, moving up to reinforce the French 6th Army, he doesn't believe his eyes. "Müller, are you seeing this?" whispers Private Ernst Koch, crouched beside him in the observation post. Through his trench periscope, Müller watches a sight that seems pulled from a fever dream. American trucks, dozens of them, rumble past in organized lines. Not the sputtering, patched-together vehicles the Germans have been nursing along for months, but new Packard and Pierce Arrow models, their engines purring with mechanical confidence. The canvas covers are pristine, but it's what spills from those trucks that breaks something in Müller's chest. Crates of ammunition stacked 6 high, fresh uniforms in sealed packages. And food, God, the food. He can see it as soldiers unload. Tinned beef, actual white bread wrapped in wax paper, coffee beans in burlap sacks that haven't been cut with acorns or chicory. One American soldier tosses an orange to another, an orange, and they laugh about something Müller can't hear. "They have fruit," Koch says, his voice hollow. "Hans, they have fresh fruit." Müller lowers the periscope. His hands are shaking, though not from fear. It's the realization settling in, cold and final as a blade. The Americans haven't just brought soldiers. They brought their entire civilization with them.
If you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. History forgot these people, but their stories were never meant to stay silent. Subscribe and help make sure they're remembered.
Within days, that civilization collides head-on with German steel. June 6, 1918. Belleau Wood, 0400 hours. Captain Wilhelm von Schack, 461st Imperial German Infantry Regiment, has held this forest for 2 weeks. His men have transformed it into a killing ground. Machine gun nests concealed in every copse, barbed wire strung between the ancient oaks, trenches dug so deep a man can stand upright without exposing his head. They repelled 3 French attacks. Von Schack is confident, professional, a 12-year veteran who has survived Verdun. Then the Americans arrive. The first thing that strikes him is the artillery barrage at dawn, not the intensity, though it's fearsome, but the precision. American 75mm guns, freshly zeroed, walking their fire across German positions with mathematical accuracy. The shells are new production, consistent fusing, no duds. Von Schack's own artillery has been rationing ammunition for months, firing shells manufactured in 1914 that failed to detonate 40% of the time. When the barrage lifts, the Marines of 5th and 6th Regiments emerge from the wheat fields. Gunnery Sergeant Dan Daly, a two-time Medal of Honor recipient, leads a platoon forward with words that will echo through history. "Come on, you sons of bitches. Do you want to live forever?" What shocks the German defenders isn't the courage. They've faced courageous men before. It's the appearance of these Marines. Even under fire, advancing through machine gun fire that cuts down men like wheat, Von Schack can see through his field glasses. Their uniforms are intact, their equipment bouncing on their backs with the organization of men who have trained with proper gear. When a Marine falls wounded, the medic who reaches him has fresh bandages, actual morphine, not the watered-down substitutes the Germans have been using. They're attacking like it's a training exercise, Von Schack mutters to his adjutant. Don't they know they're supposed to be exhausted? The battle for Belleau Wood rages for 3 weeks, and with each passing day, the psychological gap widens. June 18, 1918. German trench system, eastern edge of Belleau Wood. Unteroffizier Friedrich Weber crouches in a captured American position, and what he finds there destroys the lass's will to fight. Not weapons, he expected those. Not even the bodies, though they're younger than he anticipated. Farm boys from Iowa and factory workers from Pittsburgh. It's the leftovers. Half-eaten tins of corned beef, still fresh enough to smell rich and salty. A canteen with real coffee. He tastes it, and it's actual coffee, not the barking grain substitute that's poisoned German stomachs for 2 years. Hardtack biscuits that don't crumble into weevil-infested dust. And chocolate. A Hershey's bar, partially melted, lying next to a dead Marine's hand. Weber picks it up with trembling fingers. He hasn't tasted chocolate since 1915. They throw this away, he says to no one. They die with chocolate in their pockets. His companion, Gefreiter Otto-Brenner, is examining a dead American's boots, leather, barely broken in, with rubber soles that show almost no wear. Brenner's own feet are wrapped in rags inside boots held together with wire. He's had trench foot for 6 months. "Look at the sole," Brenner says, his voice cracking. "It's not even scuffed. How long has this man been in the war?" 3 weeks. Weber answers, having found the soldier's papers. Private Robert Chun. Arrived in France May 28th. 21 days. This boy had been in the war 21 days and had better equipment than soldiers who've been fighting since 1914. The reality settles over both Germans like a shroud. They're not fighting an army. They're fighting an industrial colossus that can outfit millions of men with fresh boots, while their own empire rations leather for shoe soles. The psychological warfare wasn't intentional, but it proved more devastating than any bombardment. July 15th, 1918. Second Battle of the Marne. General Erich Ludendorff stares at the intelligence reports flooding his headquarters, and for the first time in his military career, he feels genuine despair. His spring offensive, designed to win the war before American forces could fully deploy, has stalled. Not because the Americans fought better than the French or British, though they fought with reckless courage, but because they kept coming. Every German unit reports the same impossible phenomenon. American divisions arrive at the front looking like they've just stepped off the parade ground. Their supply lines never falter. Their soldiers eat 3 hot meals a day, delivered by mechanized kitchens that follow directly behind the advance. When German forces capture American positions, they find warehouses of equipment, spare rifles, fresh uniforms, medical supplies in quantities that would supply an entire German division. Sergeant Müller, now recuperating in a field hospital after a shrapnel wound at Soissons, overhears 2 officers talking. One mentions that captured American prisoners complained about the quality of their beef. Complained about beef, when Muller's own rations consist of bread mixed with sawdust to stretch the flour. The Americans don't just have material superiority. They have abundance, so complete it borders on the obscene. They waste more food in a day than a German soldier sees in a week. Their surplus equipment would be considered treasures in the Kaiser's army. By August, German soldiers are surrendering not because they fear American firepower, but because they've seen the future. They've seen an enemy that brings breakfast to battlefield, that issues new boots when old ones wear out, that treats war as a logistical problem to be solved with American efficiency. Private Holloway, still alive, still fighting, writes home to Ohio, "The Germans fight like lions, but you can see in their eyes when they see our supply trains. They know they've already lost." He's right. The war will continue until November, but the outcome was decided the moment those fresh-faced doughboys stepped off the boats at Saint-Nazaire, not with superior tactics or even courage, but with the simple, crushing weight of American industrial might made manifest in hot coffee, fresh bread, and boots that didn't fall apart in the mud.